Hey there, VCHHD students. My name is Andy. I'm a VC Health and Human Development teacher. In this short video, we're looking at the purpose and characteristics of the different types of aid, and this is relevant for Unit 4 Area Study 2 for the 2025 plus HHD study zone. Before we dive into this video, just a reminder, there's lots of ways you can engage with the Health Resources Hub. If you're on our YouTube channel at the moment, you can subscribe with the button in the bottom corner of the video there, and that means you'll get alerts to all of our new videos as they come out across the year. Also got our website, the hrh.net.au, where there's opportunities for HHD students and teachers, and that's had a refresh lately. So if you haven't been there lately and checked that out, you'll see there's a ribbon across the top with some drop downs for our teacher opportunities and student opportunities, and hopefully that makes it clearer to find all of those in our website. So please check that out. Also, our TikTok, our Instagram, and our Facebook pages where you can follow us and get alerts to our new videos and other opportunities, and our email info@thehrh.net.au if you'd like to get in touch. Also, if you have a look at our social media pages, you'll see there's our link tree there as well, where there's links to all of our current opportunities. So please check that out. So what parts of the course does this video relate to? So you can see here the Unit 4 key knowledge and key skill regarding aid. So it says there in the key knowledge, the purpose and characteristics of different types of aid, and then it lists the three types of aid you need to be across. So bilateral, multilateral, and aid provided by non-government organizations. Now, in the key knowledge and the key skill, you have to then be across how these different types of aid provide humanitarian assistance, reduce poverty, improve human development, and promote health. And so it says in the key skill, you need to evaluate those different types of aid and their effectiveness. So you could be provided with, in your SAC at the end of your exam, some case studies where you might be given some scenarios about different types of aid. You could have to identify the type of aid and then make links to those different aspects of what that aid might be providing. So that's something to definitely practice in the lead up to your SACs and the end of your exam. So in this video today, we'll go through and look at the three different types of aid and those different aspects that they're involved in. So first of all, when we're talking about aid, what are we talking about? So assistance given from one party to another. And so it's sometimes referred to as official development assistance, and it can come in a variety of forms. And there's some examples there. So things like food, clean water, medical equipment, and personnel. And they're probably things that we often think about when it comes to perhaps an emergency and some humanitarian assistance is being provided through aid, but also it can be other resources for particular projects that are part of aid or funding for those different organizations like non-government organizations to carry out their work, and then that can also be provided as a form of aid as well. So there's these three main types that we'll have a look at: bilateral, multilateral, and aid provided by non-government organizations. So first of all, let's focus on bilateral aid. And so as that sort of prefix bi suggests, we're talking about two, governments working together. So this is aid that's support provided by one government to the government of another country. And so often this type of aid is designed to reduce poverty and promote sustainable human development in the country it's being delivered to it, but it also can be there to build relationships between countries. Often when we're talking about bilateral aid, we're talking about a country providing that assistance to the government of another country within their region. So often the Australian aid program, the Australian government will be providing bilateral aid to countries in our region. So it could be Indonesia or Papua New Guinea or some Pacific Island countries. And so you can see there some of the characteristics. So it often focuses on projects that can benefit both countries involved. So for example, if you were to provide bilateral aid and help reduce poverty in one country, then over the long term, that could contribute to improved trading relationships between those countries. It can be small scale or larger scale, depending on the project, and often uses the expertise of one country to benefit another. And typically, that's obviously the country that's providing the bilateral aid, their expertise, perhaps in an area such as health or policing and security, might be provided to assist another country. So you can also see some examples there linking to poverty, human development, and health. And so what I'd suggest is that go and have a look at the examples that you've chatted about in class with your teacher or in your resources, such as your textbook, and know some specific examples that you could then link into things like poverty, humanitarian assistance, human development, and health. You could be in your SAC of the exam given a scenario or a case study and asked to draw from that and make links to these different aspects of aid, but you could also just be asked to draw on your own examples. So make sure you know some examples. I won't read through everything there. You can freeze this video if you want and have a look at those examples. So then we've got multilateral aid. So that prefix there, multi. So we're talking about large global organizations such as the WHO or the World Food Programme that combine support from multiple governments or donors in order to provide large-scale support. So often these multiple donors or governments will give a lot of funding to these large global organizations, and then they'll use that to deliver aid, often, on a large scale, so often across multiple countries. And so the idea is that the purpose of this type of aid is often, once again, to reduce poverty or achieve equity in health outcomes, promote sustainable development. A lot of this kind of aid could contribute towards the SDGs. And so some of the characteristics you can see there is that kind of focus on a large scale project that individual countries might find difficult to achieve on their own or using bilateral aid because of sort of the sheer size and scale of these kinds of projects. As I mentioned, they can be linked to the SDGs, and it encourages and requires the cooperation of many countries often to work together for the implementation of this aid, especially if it's crossing sort of multiple borders. And so once again, there's some links there to reducing poverty, improving human development, promoting health. If you are looking at perhaps a case study or a scenario and you're trying to think about whether or not the aid being provided is multilateral aid, probably one of the giveaways often is the name of the organization. So often that term world or global, is often involved in the name of the organization. But often, you're also thinking about, well, is this an example where two governments are working together? And if not, it's either probably multilateral aid or aid provided by non-government organizations. And if the organization is not an NGO, then it's probably multilateral aid that we're looking at. Okay, so before we look at the last type of aid, just a reminder, there are these ACE HHD exam revision lectures that I'm delivering across September and October, and the early bird discount has nearly expired. So if you're watching this video and it's before the 24th of August, if you head to book.acevc.com, you'll see there's already an early bird discount, that is available. And so that will expire on August 24th. So if you're interested in getting those sort of discounted spots to these revision lectures, please head there and book a spot. You can also bundle together the HHD revision questions book that I've worked on this year with ACE. It's got 500 marks plus worth of practice questions, a full trial exam, and a chapter on extended response questions. There's also other subjects available such as biology, chemistry, PE, psychology. So you can combine HHD with some of those and get additional bundle discounts. So as I said, they're all available at book.acevc.com. Okay, so then the last type of aid is non-government organization aid, or aid provided by non-government organizations. And so these are organizations such as Oxfam and the Red Cross. And so they're providing aid to promote health and human development. So you can see their purpose typically is to work with communities and people, and help to reduce things like poverty and promote health and human development. So often these organizations have worked in different communities, in particularly low income and middle income countries for long periods of time, and they often know those communities really well. So that's part of some of the characteristics there of this type of aid. So it's independent, non-government based, but it does often receive funding and support from governments. It can be flexible and quite responsive to the needs of people in specific communities because it understands their needs well, because as I said, they've often worked in these particular communities for long periods of time. It is often quite community based and engaging with local communities to deliver these programs and projects. And they often have expertise in particular areas. So some particular non-government organizations might focus on children or focus on poverty. And so they have particular expertise in delivering programs and projects to improve the lives of people in those particular areas. Once again, you can see some examples here. And so once again, if you want to have a read of those, but make sure that in your notes, you've got some specific examples you could draw on. Okay, hopefully you found that video useful. A reminder that practice books question is there at book.acevc.com if you're after some more practice questions in the lead up to your SACs at the end of your exam. Thanks so much.